5 p.m. We're going to start with a moment of silence, followed by the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're open for public comments. You want to read?
Yeah, I can read that. Alright, public comment periods will be held at the beginning of the scheduled meeting and limited to a maximum of 30 minutes. Each person desiring to speak shall clearly state their name and will have a maximum of 3 minutes to make his or her remarks. A speaker may not speak more than once during the same public comment period, and unused time may not be yielded to another speaker. To avoid repetition, groups of individuals who expect to have the same or similar comments are encouraged to select a spokesperson to speak on their behalf. Public comment is not intended to require the board to answer any impromptu questions. The board should refrain from engaging in dialogue except to the extent necessary to clarify the speaker's position. The board shall not entertain questions from the audience, and discussions between speakers and members of the audience shall be prohibited. Speakers shall maintain proper decorum and shall make their comments in a civil manner. Personal attacks and use of obscene and profane language are prohibited. Speaker comments should be limited to subjects that are within the board's jurisdiction, and action on items brought up during public comment period will be at the discretion of the board.
Okay.
Greetings, board and Claire. Rebecca Brock, and just fresh from the polls is all I can say. Here's some thoughts. I really liked school being closed today. That was really great. We had an issue with Irwin that many people came thinking that they could vote there, and they were at the wrong poll, and they had to be sent to either their correct poll, which was around there. I think in the future we have to do, both parties as well as the Board of Elections has to do a better job of distinguishing voting, early voting and voting, and maybe those stickers should say, I voted early, okay, and then just I voted. I took a look at our sample ballot that we put out, and I thought we could do a better job at notating that on the top, because it's there, but it should be on the top clear. So just to say somehow for the general, we really need to be able to not have people have to get back in their cars and go someplace else to vote, because they didn't want to take the PB ballots. So just to keep you aware, I'm not talking about a few people. This is 50 or 50 plus people had that experience. The Johnsonville gym that is now being voted out of, lovely facility. It's a little awkward for the people who are like us, who are out there politicking. So it's a little awkward. The absentee deadline on the ballot, it says close absentee. I know the statute says any ballot received after 7:30 cannot be counted, but do you get ballots by 7:30? So I was just hoping you could answer that question so that we could take as many absentee ballots from when you or the post office delivers them. That's it. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, we're now closed. There you want to do the minutes?
And I would like to add, if I may, the office is open until 7:30, so we can accept ballots until 7:30. And the post office, anything that they're getting, they're bringing to us. So yes.
Thank you.
Alright, so everybody has in front of them a copy of the minutes. It is the same that was emailed to you. I just made one edit on this copy, correcting a error with Mr. Curtin's name. But other than that, the minutes are the same. If you need time to review them, you may. But once you're satisfied, a motion to approve would be in order.
Claire, this is kind of out of order, but should we put the ballot that came that we all had to look at and say this was the voter intent, that we counted that, should we put that in the minutes? You remember the one?
Yeah.
I-
That didn't
I
run through the
think we
machine.
need to, the fact that we did that and we all agreed,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure how you would word that,
I'll just say,
Duplicated a
Mhm.
ballot that wouldn't,
questionable
that would not.
questionable voter intent.
verify.
See, you have these meetings too close together, I can't remember them. A month apart, no. Of course, we haven't had that lately, have we?
No, we haven't.
Alright, so what I did was I just said, election technician Jessica Higginbotham opened the absentee machine, the absentee DS-200, the board verified the total was 130.
132?
Yeah, 132. One ballot was duplicated by the board due to stray marks. And then it goes on to Ms. Fenderson ran the 102 through the machine. Is that okay?
Okay, as I said, I kind of got it out of order, but with that change, I will move we approve the minutes.
Ran the 106 through the machine.
Yes, 106. I'm sorry. My laptop can be a little crazy, and so it's messing my formatting up. All right. Is there anything else? Margaret? So is there a motion to approve? Ms. Fair made a motion. All right. Second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So this is the one to be signed. Huh? You don't have to know your plan, you're right. Get your own thing.
All right, we're gonna move on to business. I asked for, and I see you have your better half with you, I guess, or Mr. Brent Trout to come and give us an update on the building.
If there's one.
That's what we're trying to find out. Let them speak.
Well, as far as, we went through the CIP process, and when we concluded the CIP process, the new Board of Elections building was provided in the CIP, but no specific date as to when that project would occur, or exactly what the scope of that project would be, other than providing new facilities that meet the need. I think our focus right now is on our Animal Adoption Center project, and that is where we're looking to build a new facility. It has been a need for quite a while and has been identified by the board as a project to complete in the coming year. There's no specific project after that we have for a building project. as far as the timing. We are in the process of also approving the construction of a new middle school. And so there's going to be bonds sold in order to pay for that. And then the intent from the school system is the need to build another high school. And that high school will be built in 2 years, or at least the process started in 2 years. And so those are the major projects that the county is currently working on. So I don't have any good indication as to when that project would be considered again as far as the Board of Elections building. It'll be part of the CIP process next year to determine if there is a specific date that the board feels that they would want to pursue that type of project. I know from the other part that enters into that is from our space needs study. It was conducted that the possibility would exist that we would build a new health department building, and that the current staff in the health department building would move to the new facility, and they would repurpose the existing health department building for multiple other departments that are looking for space. The Board of Elections being one of those, parole and probation, a couple other options that were considered. And so that facility, the current health department, would be repurposed for additional use by other departments. So that's kind of where we stand with the project right now.
Question, Mr. Trout. With the repurposing of the health department building, I know we're included for space, but how do we rank as far as priority?
We look at, based on the work that they did, there is a space that could fit well with the number of staff that are currently, and actually some room if there were additional staff. The Department of Aging has got a location that's kind of separate from the rest of the health department, has potential. It's right next to the commons. Based on the design that they have, it could be a good fit. Now, whether or not in the end it's truly enough space, that's something that will have to be decided. But as you walk into that location right now, there's multiple offices. And the real issue would be is, there's no space to store voting machines and other types of equipment that you have in that facility. However, it would give you, with your typically early voting occurring in the commons, would give you some access there, and make it better. And also you would at least be on this side of the river when it comes to access to the equipment that's stored in the warehouse. So I think there's some advantages. If we were looking at wanting to create space where you could store that equipment in that building, then we would need to do some additional looking at the space that's in that building. It's one draft has been done, so to speak, of who would occupy that space. So if you identify additional needs, you could repurpose it to provide more space for Board of Elections in that building.
Just to follow up, are you saying that perhaps we would have the first opportunity?
I think so, because the other people that have been talked about moving into that location are currently in leased facilities. And those facilities are working for them at the moment. The idea that we would like to move them in there is because they're the only people that we have to lease a facility for. All the other locations for county staff are in owned buildings by the county. So there's a purpose there to eliminate an annual expense that approaches $75,000 a year as we go forward. And so eventually you get to the point where you could service debt to build a building or renovate a building that provides for the same needs at that rate. So
I have an additional question. As far as the time period that we're talking about, is it 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 8 years?
If I had to give you an answer right now, which I'm going to, it'd be 3 years would be the earliest you would see that, and more than likely you're at 5 or more.
And in that regard, do we have the ability to meet with these planners or architectural people to give input as to space that we need and purposes that we need, so we
Well-
can at least get a draft together when we submit to the commissioners?
Well, I think the agreement has passed with regards to the folks that did the study. However, the
Request for a facility, that we're the stepchild. Seems like we're always pushed aside for other projects.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with trying to prioritize from the board's perspective, and right now that's how they're looking at it. And I would say that the discussions will be easier to be had once we get through the project with the Animal Adoption Center. It's a $10 million project, and so we need to get past that project and look at what's next after that. And
I think that the last presentation that was made to the commission was 2 to 3 years ago. And of course, it wasn't successful for us. And the need and the urgency is still increasing. Do you think we could advance our position a little bit by making a timely presentation to the commissioners to re-advise them of the urgency?
Of course, we can arrange for that. I think at this point, that possibility is probably past, given that we just recently approved the CIP. Things are pretty set for the coming year. So if we were going to do that, it would be something that you would look at probably in the December to January timeframe, December of this year, to have that kind of a conversation with the board.
All right, and you mentioned the CIP people. In the interim, before we make a presentation, can we work with a couple of people to do something like maybe architectural illustrations and what have you? So we have something tangible to present to the commission when we do present it?
I mean, we can look at that and what that might cost,
Yeah.
as far as.
Well, I think instead of doing outside people, we have people with those abilities. It'd be nice to work in-house, so to speak.
Right now, I don't know of anybody that we have that could do that, other than taking what was presented from the engineers and architects when the needs assessment was completed.
Okay, and you'll see that we get a copy of that?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So Brent, you mentioned 3 years, at best, 5 or more. Now, the building that you're speaking of, the health department, is that the 3 years wait? Or if it became available once you complete whatever you.
Yeah, we would have to build a new health department building, which is a very expensive project. I mean, that would be, if I had to hazard a guess, I heard this building was 20 million, so you're looking at something similar to that, or maybe more, because there's gonna be certain specialized equipment that goes in there. So it's a major undertaking.
So they're still in the planning phase for that and not.
Actually, all we've done is an assessment and looked at alternatives as it relates to that. Now, I made the comment that that was the recommendation from the assessment team. That doesn't mean that you couldn't still at some point consider a separate building as an alternative to that. Just as you have now, you have a separate building. It's an alternative, but what we're looking at is we have some other needs that are going to come in the future as it relates to some of the other departments. And so we're looking at what's the best use, and given how healthcare has advanced in certain areas, that building was built quite a while ago, and there's an opportunity for us to build it in a better way, provide better service to our citizens if we look at our health department.
And what about the thoughts of the current building, like expanding that to meet growth? Is that not-
Obviously, we'd be willing to look at that if there's a possibility. The thing that we'd have to look at is what we would need to do related to the area around there and what could be constructed within that footprint. But yes, that is always a possibility to look at an expansion of the current. I mean, I'm willing to consider all options, and obviously,
Oh, never mind, it floods.
well, it is.
There's a lot of water around it. We're right next to
There is, I mean, it can be a concern.
There's nothing there.
It may not be your best choice, but
Yeah, we have that, there's nothing different one. I can see now, that's speaking from a layperson. It looked like it's probably expanded to, the degree that it can be with that. What is that? Is that a reservoir?
yes, it's a water reservoir.
A lot of water
Purification.
there, so, I don't know if it's structurally sounded where you could go up, maybe, I don't know, but, is that a possibility?
Well, I think, you look at this and say, I'm willing to explore all options and try and see if there's because if you can find a solution that reduces the cost, that makes it more feasible to occur sooner and for it to be considered sooner. So I think that's obviously a benefit if you can find a lower cost option to what you have now.
So right now, currently, it doesn't seem feasible in the near future for any move to the health, because you're just assessing the health
Right.
department.
We looked at, and that assessment was included every department, every building that the county has or currently uses that we lease, trying to look at all staff needs for the future. And we looked at 20 years. I mean, we're also talking about what do we do with the third floor of the courthouse that's currently not completely utilized. And so we're looking at all options that we have and all needs that we have, trying to look forward to the future for 20 years as the county grows, what are our needs going to be?
So your best guess when you break ground to completion for the new health department would be?
I wouldn't give you an answer because it would be so far into guessing that it's just not something that I could provide you.
So if we don't find, because don't look like that health department's gonna be available.
So that's why I can provide what was done related to the assessment, and we can have a more in-depth discussion sometime regarding what was proposed and what it would take in order to make that happen. And if that option isn't desired, then we could look, see what other options might present themselves.
Let me ask you a question. I don't know if you remember that we got $100,000 from the federal government for the COVID money that we used to buy the election machines. I don't know if you were here. Was he?
No.
He was
No.
not.
Yeah. And I'm just, nobody ever made a record of it or anything.
Yeah, no, it
But
wasn't right.
if we could use that $100,000 for improvements on the building that we have, I don't know if that's an option we could go forward to the commissioners with. I don't know that anybody remembers that $100,000 but it bothers me.
I've mentioned it to them before, but at the time, administration at the time never put anything in writing as far as, hey, you're gonna offset. Because we had the $200,000 for the machines in our CIP. Then when we got that COVID money, we had to spend over CARES, I think, but we had to spend it by the end of that year, and so then we couldn't use it for a building, so we offset the cost of the machines. And then admin at that time said, well, we'll keep this in mind when it comes to getting a building.
Oh,
But it was just a more informal discussion kind of thing.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, Mr. Trout, since the Board of Election is one of the departments that's gonna be needed for at F9.
Right.
What can we do? What needs to happen for us to be moved up the priority list from where we are? It seems like each budget session that we keep asking and asking,
It's a moving target.
but it's we're told that if this happens, maybe. Is there anything that can be done to move us up?
I can't answer that question specifically because a lot of it has to do with prioritization that's done by the Board of Commissioners as they look at the whole county and what the needs are in the whole county. That's why I say that I don't see any specific glaring needs for a project beyond us completing the adoption center for the animal adoption center, there's nothing on the immediate plan. And so they would just need to determine, what would be the cost, whether they're going to save up money and capacity for doing a new health center, or are they gonna say, no, we won't want it. We won't spend that kind of money in the future. So let's take a step back and do a smaller building for Board of Elections. And so that's really a discussion during the CIP process to determine what particular priorities are going to be by the board as they look at the whole gamut of projects that are planned or need to be considered for the future.
Have they started the animal facility, adoption facility?
Actually, the next board meeting, work session, there's going to be a discussion about the location of that facility. They're going to be looking at 4 locations and hopefully choosing one so that we can move forward with doing the RFP for hiring an architect to design and begin that process so that it can be designed and constructed, hopefully construction started by the end of the year. At least selecting the contractor by the end of the year.
Claire, you got anything to ask?
I mean, like Brent, I've told Brent before, and we're just gonna keep submitting that CIP each year, see when we can get it, availability in there.
Thank you for your time.
You bet, you bet.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Trout.
like I said, I'll get those assessment sheets that relate to it, the references to it, and then you can sit around and look at it. We'll come back. Mike was, he was involved quite heavily in that assessment process, so he's familiar with it. And obviously some of his staff in the facilities, they look at that very hard as to what's the future for needs within the county, so.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trout.
All right, on to the budget.
Alright, so everybody has before them a copy of, the budget. This did not change much since the last time I submitted to you guys. I will add that the increase for the election workers, has to go onto an expansion request, and that is it's a little bit separate from the budget, where the admin and the budget officers will review all that to approve or deny, like different expansions. So this doesn't reflect that increase at this time until we have our budget meeting with admin. But for the most part, everything is the same. I will add also that the Integris software that we were looking at the conference, they did not get back with me with a quote on that yet. But talking with the staff, there may be some other options that we may be able to utilize for training videos and things of that nature. That may be a little bit cheaper, so we can do more in-house. But the good thing is, even if you approve this budget today, if something comes up throughout the year, we can always do a budget amendment. So we're not so necessarily tied for the whole year based on this. So if something does come up, we do have that flexibility to reach out to admin and amend our budget as needed. So I guess at this point, are there any questions concerning?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
It's not a big item, but about $500. Under dues and subscriptions, I see NCADE, and between the board dues, the notary fees, director, et cetera, it's about $500. What is that, and how does it benefit us?
So the NCADE is the North Carolina Association of Directors. And so that is a group that all the directors and most people have their staff. I have my staff members of it as well. And it's just an organization that, it's kind of like an information sharing kind of thing, where it's just the directors. It doesn't necessarily have the state board involved in it, where we can get together, discuss processes, reach out to legislators if the board sees fit to do that. So it's just an association within the election staff. Board dues is for the board association. So every year, we pay the dues for the board, and they can be a part of that association if they want to as well. The board association, though, has not been organized for the last several years, so we actually have not had to pay the dues, but they said that after this primary, they're gonna try to get back organized and then invoice for the dues. But again, it's the same thing, it's just for the board members to interact with other board members. So when we have our election conferences, you'll see on the agenda that there's the election association meetings and then there's the board association meetings. So those would be events that you could go to after having dues paid.
And that board, what's the name of the organization?
For the board,
The board, yeah.
I honestly don't know it off the top of my head,
Okay.
but I think it's like the NC,
I've gotten
Do you have
emails
it?
from them somewhere.
but it's like the North Carolina Board Association, but I couldn't tell you exactly right off the top of my head.
Okay.
While she's looking that up, career temp, those are the people that are paying the election workers?
Correct, the Greer Company.
And that's because HR didn't have the time, it should come out of their budget, so they didn't have time to do it.
Well, unfortunately, because we're the ones that are responsible for the election workers, that Greer markup comes out of the election budget.
Claire, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Under professional services, election coding is that Printellect that we?
Yeah, that's the Printellect and ES&S that
Okay.
does the information for the machines.
And the other, if you flip it over in the middle of the page, rental of computers, we don't own our computers.
Yeah, I had a question about
No,
that.
we do not. Our computers, so the computer rentals, the top two ones are for our office computers, and those, the county, I can explain to you how they do it because they are in, I honestly, I was gonna say Ben can probably explain that better than I can. But we do not own our computers, so we have to pay rent for them, and then every 5 years we get new, equipment.
So they've determined that's more feasible than buying a.
Yes,
Okay.
because every
Especially
5
upgrades.
years you
Okay.
get new equipment. And same with our laptops, so we have those on lease too, so every 5 years we get new laptops. And that just keeps us from having to buy new equipment every so many years once it gets outdated.
Does that include a maintenance agreement with the rental company?
Well, that's why I can't really explain it because the county is a self-rental. I'll have to get back with you on a better explanation.
Okay.
So this isn't like an outside company, it's through the county, but I can't. Ben, save me, Ben!
So we used to use a outside company to lease the computers, and we would do 4-year leases. About 2 years ago, we started doing the leasing ourselves. So us as an IT department get the computers or all-in-ones, laptops, whatever technology, and we lease it to the departments for 3 to 4 years, depending on how heavy the use of the equipment is.
Is that a break even with you guys, or is it a vertical market?
I don't know the numbers on it.
Okay.
I just know that's kind of the way we do it. And then once that lease is up, the user of the machine has the opportunity to purchase it, or the department has an opportunity to purchase it and then keep it. If not, we sell it on gov deals.
And on your renewal, do you use the older machines to lease them to another department?
No,
Thank you, Ben.
You find it?
No, I found the letter you guys sent, but it doesn't have the name of the organization. Remember when they sent that letter about Senate Bill 747?
I know it's like NCBA, but I want to say there's something else after that. But it's like North Carolina Board Association something.
It's not-
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions on the budget?
Any other questions that don't deal with IT? Alright, so like I said, what I need today is just a motion to approve the budget And then again, just to know that if something does change throughout the year between now and the general election or after the general election, we can always do a budget amendment to add or do whatever we may need to.
In years past, have you done an additional budget?
Mhm.
And how is that handled?
In the years past, have we done it? Yeah, we've done a few budget amendments in the past year. A lot of times for us, because we go through the broad budget process, I would say pretty well. Most of the time it's moving money from one of our accounts to another account to kind of balance it out. We've not had to go to the commissioners to ask for additional money in a while, but typically when we do that, as long as we have the justification, they'll approve it.
So that's kind of like a miscellaneous,
Yeah.
okay.
And
And I did find it's called the Election Boards Association of North Carolina. But I think right now it's kind of
this,
disorganized.
yeah, they're not organized right
Yeah.
now.
I move to approve the budget.
I second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright, so the next item is the memorandum of understanding. So I know several board members have reached out to me asking about this. So, the Harnett County Board of Elections staff has always followed the procedures of Harnett County personnel. It's always kind of been an unwritten understanding that we don't have a personnel office, so we just follow under their procedures. So a lot of counties have an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. It's not really required, but it is recommended. So I went and pulled some examples from other counties, sent it to our Chris Appel with the legal department, and what you have before you is what they drafted, which is pretty much identical to what other counties have. And so this is the same copy that you have received via email, and it was reviewed by legal and Harnett County HR. So if there's any questions, let me know. But basically, it just says that, Harnett County Board of Elections falls under the personnel ordinance, that we acquire the same amount of time and comp time and payouts and raises that all other county employees also acquire.
What's the legal ramifications of this document?
I'm not sure really what your question is.
How, if something is, if a paragraph is violated or not being followed, what means do we have to address that? Do we have to go negotiate with the county, with the commissioners, or to the HR people?
I would say probably between HR and legal, if there was an issue with something in the MOU.
Mhm.
Like I said, this has kind of been how we've been structured for this time, so I
Yeah.
don't foresee that really being an issue, but yes, that would be something
All right, and-
that could be changed and edited in the future.
And I was looking at it, and the seventh whereas clause, and specifically sections 4 and 5, I'm not happy with the phraseology of those, but you say it was generated by the lawyers, and so I suppose it's, I'm being picayune by bringing it up.
Mhm.
This was generated by the County Board of Commissioners. And
No, the Board of Commissioners haven't seen this yet.
they've not seen it.
No.
Okay. So this is gonna be our proposal to them, instead of in lieu of a memorandum of understanding we currently have or don't have.
We don't currently have one on
So
file.
this will be the mating or the initial, probably getting and having one.
Mhm.
And the county has, if we agree on this,
Yes,
and then, of course, we'll submit it to the county for approval.
yes. and they'll review it, and then they'll approve it, or if they have edits. But again, this is drafted off based the same thing that other counties have used, so I don't foresee them not approving it. But yes, so this is an agreement between this board and the commissioner. So after you guys approve it, then legal will present it to the commissioners for their approval as well.
Do we have to make a decision on do this today?
No, you don't have to make a decision today.
Oh.
I just know several board members have asked me about it, and I just wanted to make sure that everybody had it, and then we can start that discussion.
Because all these, some of these, items, they're good, and some I agree with the bill that, I think we should really talk about it and, have something that I guess our board would agree with. And,
Is there anything that the board would like to discuss today about it, or do you just want to sit and kind of think about it a little bit and come back maybe in another month or so?
personally, what I think would be best, that we do have some time to absorb this, look at it, and see if there's something that leaves something left out, or perhaps need to change it. I would do all, yes, something that's reasonable.
Anybody else? Is everybody in agreement to
Put it on the agenda for next month.
next month?
That'd be fine. And then if
And
we
at
have
that
any,
point, not, whatever we agree to, nothing will be signed until the commissioners review it.
Well,
And we sign it first.
yeah, the board can
And-
approve it
but
and
then
sign it, then
they,
send it
they're
over.
gonna review it, and then it may have to be,
It may come back if they don't sign it, correct?
But
But
if
since
legal,
legal drafted it, I don't think that it'll,
legal drafted it, they're probably gonna go along with it, I would think.
it's very pro forma sort of.
yeah.
So if everybody's in agreement, we'll just put it on the
Real
agenda
quick,
for,
So, well, I know, Bill, you reviewed it, and I did, because we were, and I'm pretty sure everyone else has. But your issue is section 5? Is that what you were talking about?
section 4 and 5, just the
4 and 5.
verbiage, and contrasted to the whereas clause number 7. It seems like it's a little ambiguous, conflicting, not clear, and too much legalese.
Too much legal,
Yeah.
for legal doc?
Maybe we should have Chris Appel come to our next meeting, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
he can talk to them about their concerns.
mhm.
Would this be something that, we want to, check with the state board to see if they have any?
Well, the examples that I
Yes,
sent you guys, that came from the state. The one of them was from Don Wright, who worked at the state board for many, many years.
Oh, okay,
So that's kind of what.
so everything that's here currently, the way it is
Is
they're
from
agreeing
the
with the
state
state board.
examples and other county examples, yes.
oh, yeah, okay.
And you remember Professor Joyce
Mhm.
brought it up and said, if you don't have one, you should have one at the last workshop.
So, we've agreed that, Chris Appel
Yeah,
will come.
we'll up it on
and-
the agenda for next month, and then I'll see if Chris can come.
Okay.
Alright, everybody's in agreement with that?
Yes.
Alright,
Yes, do we need a motion?
no.
Okay.
Okay, so the next item, I stuck it on the agenda just to discuss with the whole board. So I know, Bill and Lewis came to the office to kind of start some conversations about some things. And I know Bill had named it the bipartisan logistics team. Some of the items that were discussed, we have already discussed, such as the new building, the MOU, were some of the things that were discussed, and I did send an email to you three just so that you know that, you know, some of the items that were mentioned. But since it was just the two of you, I wanted to make sure as a board that we're all aware and on the same page of what we're doing, what we're doing, what we're trying to do. And I don't know, Bill, if you want to speak on it a little bit,
Certainly.
since it was kind of your idea,
Yeah.
just to kind of get some communication
Yeah,
started.
one of the things that I've noticed is a lot of times, things, we want to talk about some stuff, but it's really not to the point we're going to be making decisions or we've done the research on it, or it's a viable motion, okay? And I think that for us to be more efficient, it'd be nice if we had an opportunity to discuss some of the things in a little more detail with Claire. And so I suggested that we have a bipartisan board member, two board members, one Republican, one Democrat, go in and talk with her about a couple of issues. Logistical things that would make us be a little more efficient. And that's open to any time anybody, it doesn't, not just him, he happened to be with me, but anybody else, we can have one Republican and one Democrat come in and talk to her. It's not a meeting as such, it's not a public meeting, but at least we're communicating on our views and what have you. And I think that then when we get to the point when we can formulate positions going forward, it'll be much more efficient and allow us to conduct business in a more professional manner. That's why I brought it up. And we met with Claire for about an hour and a half on the 15th of February, and we went through several things. Did I give you the list of things, Claire, or not? I can just read them off. I have them here.
What I had given to them was talking about the MOU, the BOE discipline process, need for a new facility, creating the flyer, offering services, and then creating a video series educating the public. And then I can inform them that you were willing to meet with any of them.
Yeah, and also procedures for staff complaints, internal, external review procedures. I went to HR and got the disciplinary language out from the Janus, and it's about 5 pages long, and of course that applies to our employees. And I think it's just, instead of reinventing the wheel, we'll have an opportunity to have a clear understanding of what we're doing when we're doing things. So that's the type of thing that I had in mind. And I invite anyone that, anytime you want to have such a meeting, I'm available. I'll make myself available. Day, night, weekend, doesn't matter. Because I think it'll lead to more efficient operations of the board.
I have one point of clarification. So in the email that I saw, it read like Claire was part of the team, but you said that a bipartisan Republican Democrat will go and meet with her and I guess brainstorm, but she's not a part of it's not a trio, it's a duo.
I didn't see her email to you, so I can't really respond from what you've said. The idea is when two of us want to talk about some stuff and we have to involve her because she's the one that's going to be the operator, we come in and we hash it out. I didn't envision her generating that type of meeting, so it would be up to the board to initiate that, two members of the board. That was my thought.
So will the two members of the board then come back to the full board and have a discussion? That's the point I'm trying to figure out what this.
And that may be, or if you want to go into more detail, two other members of the board can go in and rehash the same subject matter with her. And that would be something to just get things all out onto the table. And then if we want to go forward with a formal motion or some action by the board, that's when we would bring it to the board. That's the concept.
Isn't that the purpose of these meetings monthly?
Oh, it is, but I said right in the beginning that I noticed there's a reluctance to bring certain things up and discuss things because it's an open meeting, it's before the public, it's being recorded, and people are a little bit hesitant. I'm not.
What exactly are you trying to refer to? What have people not brought up because it's an open meeting?
I didn't make notes of it, but I've gotten that impression over the last 6 months at different times. And
But you
there's-
can't give me any examples
I
of
can't,
that.
no.
That you think because there's an open meeting that we won't bring stuff up and that we should go behind closed doors and bring these things
No,
up?
I'm not saying that at all. Not behind
It is
closed
exactly
doors.
what you just said.
Well,
Well, the thing is, we're a 5-member board.
so far,
Yeah, so far, you're right. And, I mean, if I have something, I'm gonna say it. I think Mr. Bell, and certainly Mr. Curran over here, and Betsy's not shy either, and you're not shy. So, I'm kinda confused on what we're not bringing to,
well,
If we have
there's on the other side of it too, it could be one person going in and talking with Claire about something. That's now no longer bipartisan, and that may be something that the whole board want to share with.
well, I personally, I think that if there's something that is burning for you, you just bring it up, no matter how difficult, and we'll address it then. I mean, what might be burning for you may not be burning for her or myself or Belle or, well, maybe for Belle, but it's an individual thing. And I think it's better to just, instead of going here to discuss 2 people, 1 people, whatever, just bring it out in another.
I'm fine with that
That's
too.
what the board is for.
I just want to make sure that we have clear, open communication. That's my only point.
And we all can go and talk to Claire, but we also need to be respectful of her time, that, she doesn't need to, she has a lot of work that she needs to do, and I'm sure she's willing to meet with any of us as needed, but I don't know that she needs to spend a couple of hours every week with just 2 of us, or,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
but
don't,
that's
I don't have a problem meeting with any board members at any time. I would rather be able to explain things, answer questions, as they come up.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out how is the information getting back to us? You're gonna email us every week? That's not how boards operate.
Yeah, I
The
see
board
what you're
members
saying.
bring information up and the board members discuss it if it's something that's burning.
Well, for example, I remember back a couple of months ago, I wanted to bring up something and it was quote, new business, but that wasn't on the agenda. And I thought, well, that's pretty restrictive. I just like to talk about something, bring it up. Who else am I gonna talk to if we can't do it at an open meeting? Well,
I
Claire
vaguely
said,
remember
Claire's
something.
comment was, let me finish. Claire's comment was that, well, I wanna make sure that I have the information that I need to answer questions. Well, I appreciate that, but
so I think maybe a good procedure might be to contact Claire before the board and say, I wanna talk about such and such at the board meeting, because I do remember that.
I remember
that,
yeah.
but it was something that nobody was aware of, but if you contacted Claire and said, can you put, which I think all of us have done, can you put, I wanna talk about,
The building.
yeah, the building, or I wanna talk about making a flyer, I wanna talk about making some videos. Put that on the agenda, then we all have that before the meeting, and we know, this
well, I
is
believe I
something-
did that on the 2 meetings ago, and then I had to supply specifics of what I was going to be talking about, including statutory language and other things. And I thought, well, geez, why don't I write the whole thing up? I want to talk about it, I don't want to be an author.
Well, the thing is, I guess sometimes it may not be settled during that meeting because we have to leave and go do some research, but perhaps, I don't know what her thought process is, she can tell you. But if she has an idea herself, it may be something she can address right away, or we meet, but you may not get that response or answer. I mean, I don't know what, she can tell you what her thought process was. But everything may not be addressed in one particular meeting, most things are. I don't see you coming with anything outrageous that we can't address but sometimes some additional research needs to be done.
Oh, no doubt.
But I don't have a problem with you or any one of the other 4 of us bringing up whatever. But I guess her thought process was that day, I don't know what it was you were wanting. I have to go back and look at the video. But, if that's your whole reason for it, I think we can maybe not have the, what is it, bipartisan logistic team?
Well, that's fine, but then at least have a category of new business on every agenda. So we're able to bring something up.
Now, I will say, this board is not necessarily tied to its agenda. So, I mean, we can always bring up something. I think the comment I made that day was just like, if you come in and say, oh, I want to talk about Session Law 1585,
Oh.
and then you just throw that at me and I don't have that pulled up or prepared, I think that was what my comment was referring to. At any time, at a regular meeting, we can discuss anything.
Yeah.
Now, I know there was a couple of times discussion was brought up during absentee meetings, and it was like, I think that was cut because it was an absentee meeting that's specific to absentees. But even though we do the agenda, we're not necessarily tied to it. So we can always have new business. But if there's something like statutory or general statute issues or number memos or something, if I can just get a heads up, then I can have that prepared beforehand. But there's nothing tying this board from saying, this is what's on agenda, this is the only thing we can talk about.
But even if there is something, I think it was something we had gotten that day. And if he does have a question, we can discuss it, but she don't expect that anyone's gonna have to answer, let's say.
Well, I wouldn't expect that anyway.
And, it may be later that we
Yeah.
get together, so, you know.
Yeah, so anytime anybody wants anything on the agenda, just let me know, and we can always add it, and then like you said, we're not tied to it, so.
Well, as the point of the day, this MOU that
Yeah,
we got, it was on my desk when I walked in here, and we started discussing it. I brought up a couple of points. It's been put off for a month to take care of those issues. That's fine. That's fine, as long as we can do that. Have that freedom.
And what other things were on the list?
it was, so, the only thing that we didn't discuss, like I said, we discussed the new building, the MOU, the Board of Elections discipline process for directors and staff. There was a create the flyer to offering our services to organizations. And then I was also discussed the create a video series educating the public about election processes and number of memos.
So the last 2 or 3, you wanna discuss it?
Do I want to talk about it?
Yeah?
Of course. I said that before. As far as the outreach to the community is concerned, I think it's really important to get people to want to come out and vote. All right? There's a resistance to it in the community. That's what's trending. Nobody wants to come out and vote. It doesn't matter. It's only one vote. Well, my thought is that why is that happening? And it may very well be because of all of the fraudulent things that are happening around the country, not here. And I want to make it clear that if something happens in another state, it indirectly impacts us. So things, all of that stuff aside, I'd like to try and demystify the election process. How do you do that? Through education.
Can I interrupt for just
And
1 second?
yeah,
One
go
point
ahead.
of clarification. You say fraudulent things are happening in other states, not here. Well, we know, because you're on the board, you see what we do, and people are willing to come, and now we have the cameras to see. But we have to be careful because I haven't really seen, and I'm an avid news watcher and reader, any issues where someone has tried to really steal an election or whatever your fraudulent disclaimer is. So we can't talk about another state if it hasn't been proven and you don't have abstract.
You got about a week and I can show you some stuff?
Oh, in a week, come back with it if you got it.
No, starting right from now, I'll bring the stuff in and show you. But that's not my point. I don't want to go on the negative. I want to go on the positive.
Okay?
all right? And on the positive, I thought, as far as the outreach to the community is concerned, we've talked about going to different groups and different schools, high school, college, university, churches, different meeting places, and go in and talk to them very briefly, 5-10 minutes. Be open for answering questions, encourage questions, let them know that this is a process that's a civic responsibility for us, and develop that type of platform to get out into the community to dissuade them from not wanting to vote because they think it doesn't matter. It really does matter. It's just like jury duty. It matters. And that was as far as the outreach was concerned and going out and talking to groups. But additionally, we have the benefit of our YouTube stuff. And I like the idea of throughout the year, we have so many things that come up through our numbered memos, so many modifications, so many previous memos being replaced by new ones. Well, all of that stuff, we're going through it, we know it. Community doesn't know it.
No?
How does it impact them? Who knows? We don't know. So by just, when we get the numbered memos, for example, pull that numbered memo out, sit in front of a camera, and very briefly describe what the changes are. This is what we're doing. We're working for you, and this is how we're doing it. And just explain that one modification. That way they're not confronted with something like this, all right, the day before the election. Because we go through this stuff all the time. And it's a way of showing the people that we're really involved and we're doing the best we possibly can to make sure that we have free, fair, and transparent elections. And by doing that and talking in terms of, hey, we're real people and we're working for you and we want to make sure that you feel comfortable coming and voting. That type of concept. That's a lot better than standoffish, I can't bother with this stuff, I don't want to do it. And I think with that approach, I think we're going to get better results. I don't know that because we haven't done it, but I'd like to see it done.
I think that's getting community involvement, educating the community is wonderful. I just wanted to offer or suggest also that your team, do you have well, soon you'll have a full house.
Yeah.
But like the MAT team, do you not have a team that can also do that?
So, yes, so when we brought on the 5th position, that was the goal of that 5th position, was to do a lot of outreach and to do more events, and it would free us up to do more events. So yes, especially once we get the assistant director in, we'll be more free to go and do more things like
And
this.
then we could pair a board member with.
Yeah, it's not, and that is one thing I did mention with them when we talked, that, you know, when we are doing outreach, when we are doing communication, we have to make sure that we're doing a uniform voice, that we're using the same words and terminology that the state uses as well. I think an example that I gave was, you know, if somebody says you will be asked to show ID versus you have to show ID, it's two very different reasons. And so that, I think that was something that we had talked about, was making sure that when we do have outreach and events, that we're using uniform language, uniform processes. And so the staff, you know, is trained, you know, more or less, well, the staff is trained more than the board members typically are, because we get more of that communication from the state, even though I forward it on to the board. So it is nice that we have an additional staff person that can take on those roles. Now, of course, board members still would go out and do that as well. I just would caution, you know, making sure that the terminology.
Well, I think if a board member goes, if someone calls me and asks me to come speak to a church, and I go, I'm speaking for Allison, I'm not speaking for the board, because I may say something wrong, I need to take the ding for it and not the entire board. So.
When I went into the school system, the board approved me going into and speaking to those kids. If we as a board member are going in, as a member of the Board of Elections, we need to come under the auspices of the Board of Elections. And if we're gonna do it individually, and we need to approve that. Otherwise, we can be where you say, you know, you might
Right.
misquote something.
But see, I think it helps to pair the person, the fifth person that's going to be responsible for that with the board member that gets the request. Don't cheat the board member out from doing their civic duty, but have the internal expert from the office available to tag team and ask the questions, because we don't know everything that goes on in the office, what you do, and that person will be able to speak on that behalf.
But I would be more than happy to go in to speak to civics classes. Not right now, but,
Right.
you know, between now and November, unless, well, we don't know what's gonna happen with 747,
Yeah.
so.
So, I mean, is that something that is feasible? Like, you're still doing that, but pairing it with office, so if questions.
Oh, that would be
Yeah.
fine, yeah, because actually, I'm just reaching out, not knowing exactly how it's gonna
Right.
end up, but I've even taped a couple of presentations, they're about 5 minutes long,
Mhm.
and it's just talking about what we do, about the fact that we have a 3-inch book on election laws, and we go through those, and we live and die by those laws, plus we get the numbered memos, and that's guidance from the state board, and we've got 100 boards throughout the state, and that's a large number of people, and we're transferring all of this information, and we're doing the best we can to get it to the public.
And that's what you want to put on the website?
No, I want to do something like that every time the numbered memos come out, okay? Or just an overview, an introduction on the board itself, what we do. And we could do it in a format where, for example, one of us could be a moderator and the other one could be the guest. And so we talk about stuff like you come in and we talk about what we do, what your experience is on this specific issue, and what you did, and you went to a church and this is what you said. Or Mr. Kern comes in and he was at a high school and he said this and he said that, and this is why we're talking to people and why we're trying to spread the word in effect. So that would be something that I envision as a video clip. And just put it on, and then it's on there, just like what's going on tonight.
Will legal have, or the state have to review those type things?
They don't have to, and I think a lot of counties do different outreaches, and I don't think the state like oversees those things. I mean, I'm sure if something was said incorrectly or there was a complaint filed, they would hear about it, but
Oh, they
they
sure
don't
would.
typically, I don't think they typically micromanage that aspect of the counties.
If we get 30% of the people across North Carolina to vote today, I'll give you my chicken tonight. And if you have a mailbox, you've been flooded in the last month. If you have a TV, you've been flooded. I hope we can motivate people to get out there and vote, but there's a lot of people who are, you're saying we need to get them interested. I'm not sure we can even get them to the point of thinking about being interested. I had 2 people to call me yesterday when we left this meeting. Can I go to Lillington and vote tomorrow? No. Early voting is closed. Maybe we need to do a better job of that with getting that point out.
But we've even increased from, what, 2 years or whatever, we've increased that, and I don't know how. I saw, and she mentioned too, the same board I saw, I just saw one in my area before, I never saw any of the billboards and things like that, so.
Well, I guess the difference is,
But
that's passive stuff.
But
okay? That a billboard
yes,
or
but
an
I
ad.
do agree that we need to get more information out and educate the public to vote voting or whatever. I guess we just have to make sure that, and maybe you said you have how many videos? Can you forward them to her so we can at least see what you're talking about? At
No,
least one of
my
them?
cat was in it.
Huh?
My cat was across the street. That's not, but I'll make a couple of
Yeah, and
original ones, so
see,
you
and
can
give
look
us
at it.
the,
You'll see what I mean.
Yeah, and then we can decide, how, when or wherever. I mean, I don't have a problem with it. Now, what else?
Any other comments from anybody else?
So what was that, what else was on the list?
The other thing was just our update on our business cards, email addresses, things of that nature.
Now, in that new thing we got, that 400 pages we got on our computer, it did say that we maybe ought not to use our personal emails.
Yeah, I did read that in there, because it said that, and that has to deal with, that has to deal with public records requests.
Right.
Because you kind of want it separate from your personal email. So that is something that I saw in that manual, but that's not something they've been pushing this whole time. So yeah, it does say and what he's referring to is that county board manual that I forwarded to everybody. The state did recommend having a county email.
I said I didn't want that because I have enough emails coming in as it is, but if that might be, that might be something we want to take a look at, that was mentioned.
Yeah. And the other thing that was mentioned during the meeting was just the board certification. And then I sent you guys the email asking who was interested in being certified.
Yeah, on that, I got the follow-up, and still I don't know how to access that.
Yes. So I have I've reached out to Jessica Bowie at the state board, and she has forwarded me the login stuff, so I'm gonna send that to everybody. So I went ahead and got, even if you're not interested in doing it, that's fine. Everybody's got a login for the Learning Center.
So, what is this certification? You'll be a certified board member?
Yeah, it's just a certified board member.
Election official.
Yeah, and so, like I mentioned before, that we've not had a lot of interest from board members because it takes 2 years to get certified. And so your appointments are for 2 years. So not a lot of people saw the interest in getting certified if you may or may not be on the board after 2 years.
Especially
But it's
because
certainly
there's a
something.
test.
Yeah, especially because there's a test. And you have to get a 75. And then there's online learning classes you have to do too, as well as being a board member through X amount of elections and coming to X amount of conferences. And so there's different things you have to do to get certified.
And does it start from, you can
It starts from
backtrack?
So once you get appointed, so typically once you get appointed, you're qualified to do it, but it takes 2 years to go through the process. And so most of you guys should be qualified to do it. You just have to do the online learning and then pass the test.
Claire, random question.
Random.
When I attended the couple of training sessions
Mm-hmm.
and you swore the people in,
Mm-hmm.
can we swear people into the board? Can we swear employees in? I think it'd be a good idea when you have a session that one of us come and lead and we swear them in.
Oh, yeah,
Do we have that ability?
Yeah.
And that might be giving us something else to do, but I think it would,
Mm-hmm.
I just think it'd be a good idea.
Yeah, no, the board can certainly do the oath with the election workers. That's not
Is
an
that-
issue. You just have to
is
come
that
to
a
my
moot
training.
point,
No, that's another good point, because that's something that gives a little bit of professionalism, a little bit of status, and a little bit of
And I
meaning to
like
what they're
when
doing.
your grandson came, so when the board is out, like, when I say board, I'm talking about the duo between the office and members, go out to the schools and invite a kid or elder if you're going to a nursing home, and you wanna come and do the Pledge of Allegiance with us, or, come sit in on a board meeting.
You notice he didn't stay long after he did the pledge.
You gotta go eat, what are you talking about?
I think it's a good idea.
But you're a high school kid, like, this course, those students will probably be more into coming to see how it actually works?
Well, while I'm randomizing, I used to take my students from Triton High School to Irwin to visit, and I get permission from the board to take the students as long as we didn't impede the process. I mentioned that to a teacher the other day, and he said, can we do that? I said, if the board approves it, I said, it's probably better that you would do it in early voting as opposed to election day. But now that's kind of flip-flopped.
Yeah,
But
because of the,
I know that people,
Yeah.
nobody's supposed to be in there except voters, I understand that.
yeah, because now they have the rules about the voting enclosure and people coming in there that are not qualified.
And you gotta
voters,
write the
so-
names down. Yeah, okay, okay.
Yeah, so that would.
Let it go.
Okay.
You had mentioned that 400-page PDF that we got.
Mhm.
It's my understanding that that's going to be printed and it's going to be
Yeah.
available in print form, right?
It's supposed to be.
Because I
As soon
didn't
as
want
we
to
get
print
it,
it
it'll
if I
be out
didn't have
there.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's their plan, but I guess that they're waiting on funding, so
They're
we'll
waiting on
see.
747 also.
Probably. So right now, as far as the manual as well as the new general statutes, we only have them electronically.
I think the last thing on your list was update on the business card email, so we all should be getting email.
I mean, at this point, it's still up to you, but I think that in that manual, the state board just said it was a good idea, like a best practice, really.
And then the county email, you have to, it's every,
Yeah, so
90
for,
days.
to be sent in the county email, we have, because of security, we have multi-factor, authorization now. So you do have to set up your email. You will have to have like a cell phone number or something that you can acquire your multi-factor code, and the password does have to be updated every 90 days. So you would have to do all the same security features that we do in the office for your
I'm
email.
gonna wait till it's mandatory.
So,
the next thing was the shirts, the business cards.
business
So-
cards.
Everybody that wants business cards, notified there.
I know Bill reached out to me. I don't think Bill ever replied to the email, so I can get with you.
What's the
afterwards.
minimum?
I'm going to assume maybe 50 or 100, but I haven't looked to see what the minimum is.
I may get some with just 100, but then if I'm gonna do that, I need the Harnett County website. I mean, email.
And if you don't want to, I mean, what we could do as an alternative on your business card is put the Harnett County email, so that the emails would go to the harnettboe@harnett.org. But then if they sent it through personal, we would have access to it. But I mean, you don't really want to use your board email for personal stuff, but
No.
that's something we can work out individually, what you want on the business cards.
So what's the first step to implement this?
So pretty much what I have done is I've got it in the budget. So once the budget gets approved, then we can do whatever we need to do
Okay.
as far as that. So I just went ahead and budgeted for everybody, even though I know not everybody wants everything.
And when will we expect the shirts?
July. After the budget.
It'll be tank tops then.
They'll be short sleeve.
Okay. Anything else? So we agree that we don't need a logistic team. We will
No,
do like we did today if we need.
that's fine. I love the openness. That's good.
Well, we didn't think you had a problem with asking. Just know that some things none of us are gonna know, and we can start the discussion, but it may have to
Oh,
end.
that's fine.
Yeah,
I mean, that's how we educate each other.
okay.
So, moving forward into our election updates. So today, of course, is a very busy day for us. The good news is we did not have any delay in opening at any of our sites. Everybody was able to get in, set up, and open promptly at 6:30. As of 4 o'clock, our voting numbers were 7,393. And so in 2020, our total for election day was 11,800. So we're just a little bit 3,000 plus off from where we were in 2020. So I feel like we will get close to that number. I don't know if we'll surpass it or not, but I think we're doing good as far as turnout. We've had minimal issues. I will say East Avonsboro, which is the Dunn Community Building, their power did go out at 8:20 today. Really weird because the power went out, I think, right there at the border in the large section of Dunn. But at the community building, they had one outlet that worked.
Wait a minute.
I'm not going to question it. We're going to take it as a gift. So they were able to run what they needed off that one cord and just had some extension cords, so it did not interrupt voting. They were able to continue with the day. They didn't have to pull out. They had their emergency backup procedures, but they did not have to utilize it. And I think by 8:50 their power was back on, so it was about 30 minutes that they were out. And I think this afternoon, as I was walking out the door, I heard that maybe the power had blipped again, but it had came right back on. But for some reason, they had one outlet that worked, so it did not interrupt voting. And I do know that there was, I don't have the documentation on it yet, I'm sure it'll come in this afternoon, but there was an incident at Black River between an electioneer and a voter. I think an electioneer was passing out stuff, the voter didn't want it, and I think there was an exchange of words. That did not affect the voting, it didn't affect anybody inside, and the voter voted and left. So that is all that I am aware of with that situation. But other than that, I don't have any serious issues or complaints throughout the day. Hopefully at 7:30 they'll be able to close down and report promptly. So hopefully it'll stay smooth. Of course, we've had lots of questions from voters asking where do I go to vote. You know, their ballot style, primary questions in general, just about, you know, party affiliation, but nothing out of the ordinary. And then just as a reminder, on Thursday, March 7th is when we will do our hand-eye count at 9 o'clock, that'll be in this room. So after election tonight, and then tomorrow with our auditing, the state board's gonna randomly select 2 precincts, and we will have the bipartisan teams of election workers come out and do that hand-eye count. Again, in this room, March 7th at 9. And I'll send you another email reminder for that. That is all I had as far as election updates. Are there any questions? Okay, so at this time, we are going to close our absentee DS200 machine. I will say that since we have to do our absentee abstract, I'm going to have Ben cut the recording while we do that part, and then we can pull it back up before we get to the rest of our meeting. All right. results will be released at 7:30 p.m. So the only other thing that we had to possibly to discuss is the interviews for the assistant director position. So I don't know if the board wanted to go into closed session to discuss personnel.
Well, I need a point of clarification again, because the 2 meetings ago, was it, when Mr. McNutt said that
February 6th, regular meeting.
with the board, that we would be, you would come and give us information, and what is it, we're supposed to vote on the person? Or
So
what?
I think what the motion that Bill had said was to, for me to do the hiring, and then I think it was discussed at the meeting for the board to view my thoughts or selection prior to
In
it being
February the
official.
6th, right?
Mhm.
But that wasn't the motion, correct?
So I originally did not have it in the motion, prior to the next meeting when the board approved it. Bill did let me know that that was not the motion, and so we corrected the motion. But in viewing the video, it was in the discussion, not the actually official motion. And it is recorded, so if the board wants to view that, we could pull it up, but that's up to the board. I'm good with doing whatever the board wants me to do.
Well, let's just, pull it up and see what the actual motion is. And I think that it was agreed upon that you would just pick your person and we'd stay out of it.
That was the intent of my vote, because I asked for clarification of the motion.
And I remember asking him, I said, no, you said she could clearly pick her own people, and then that's when it was,
And I watched it this afternoon, and that's what the motion was. The motion was that Claire would hire all the staff.
and if that's the motion, that's what I stand by, because that's what.
Yeah, that's what I thought I was voting for also.
Well, if I remember, I think I stated the motion 3 times. Did you watch all 3 of them?
I watched the one that was finally voted on.
The third one, yeah. And that's the one where I didn't say it because I said it the first time. She wanted it repeated. I said it a second time, and then she wanted it repeated. And the third time, I didn't say it.
So the 2 motions that I viewed, it was not said in either of those motions. It was mentioned during the discussion part, not the official motion part. So I guess at this point, just to clarify, I don't know if the board wants to view the video or if you want to have another discussion and motion on it. And again, that's entirely up to the board.
Well, I'll just make a motion maybe that Claire will do all the hiring of the election staff, that she has that power. We delegate the power to hire staff to Claire.
With the caveat.
That's what I thought I had voted on.
That's what I
I'll
thought I
second
voted
that
on
motion.
also.
And me 3, but with the caveat that 6-month review on new hirees and annual for everyone.
So,
That she
The
would do.
question for review came up because I asked Janice, I said, there is for you guys with HR, there is something for redress for people who want to, have an issue to go to
Yeah.
HR.
So am I understanding now we're changing the motion?
No, I'm making a motion on my own that Claire has the power to hire the election staff.
Without
That's
any
my
oversight,
motion.
without
sorry.
any oversight from the board.
Correct. She does the interviews and makes the decision.
Is that what we really wanna do?
That's what we agreed,
That's
that's
what
what
we
we
voted
thought,
on.
that's what we
Statute.
agreed to before.
That's what I thought I voted on.
Well, we can
What's
play
the
it,
statute?
we can play it.
Because the question came up because the issue that you had with the attorney and the discussion was that the only 2 officers on the board were doing the hiring. And my understanding was we were gonna turn the hiring over
Yeah.
to Claire.
Yeah.
Yes, with the one caveat that before she hires, that she at least tells us who she's hiring. And the reason why I say that,
She's gonna tell
Is-
us, right, who you're
Well, I
hiring?
mean, she'll tell us when
When you
Yeah.
she
hire.
hires
once
somebody.
the decision's made, is typically how it works. And that's why I said during the discussion, it was mentioned for me to bring it to the board before the decision's made.
Well, don't we need some sort of, so that we, since the statute does state that the board shall, be involved in, you know, I'm paraphrasing now, help me out, with hiring, and finding and overseeing staff.
Yeah, I'll help you out. It says specifically that the board shall,
Yeah.
and we can delegate, but my point is, and it was then, that we have the ultimate responsibility,
Because we do.
not only in the staff, but also in the election director.
We
What
do.
were the two
And-
motions, Claire?
And I,
On the medium. So the discussion was, so the discussion prior to the motion was that I would do the hiring, but before I made a final selection, I would bring it to the board and let you guys review the decision before it's official or
is that
offered.
so bad?
Is that
The
right?
actual motion was for me to do the hiring with the caveat that we do the review at 6 months and then yearly. And then when Mr. Curran called to question and asked to repeat the motion was again repeated for me to do the hiring and with the added caveat of the 6 month and the 1 year reviews.
And that's what I voted on.
Didn't you ask about before, you mentioned that before we pulled the trigger, which I assume that meant, before everything's final, the board does have some sort of redress.
Well, wait a minute, let me ask a question. What's the objection to us looking at what she's going to do if we have the ultimate responsibility as a board? I really don't want to give up that responsibility to someone else without having a little bit of heads up. I'm not saying we're gonna overrule her. We're probably gonna go along with whatever she does, because I'm sure she's gonna do a thorough job search. But the point is, we have an obligation under the statute as a board to be the responsible party. And we're delegating it completely away to staff.
But that was your motion. At first you wanted it one way, but then, because I do remember saying, you start out saying that she's professional, she's capable of hiring and managing. Did you not see all of that?
But I would like to hear his
And then
question answered though. What, your question is, why would that
Well,
be?
why do we
wanna
have
know
a
why
problem? No, I didn't have a problem because I was on the interview board and you guys you had an issue with it, like we were trying to erroneously hire buddies or not hire black people
I never
or
heard
black
that.
women or whatever.
Wait, where's all
Nobody
that
said-
coming
Well,
from?
hey,
I
Ms.
never
Mel,
heard
now
that.
you know that's your problem.
No, I never heard.
If
So-
we voted to leave it to Claire,
Then it needs to
then
be
there's no
left to
point in
Claire.
coming back to us for discussion if she's gonna be, now, she needs to tell us once she's made the hiring, but we don't need input beforehand.
Exactly.
And I thought that's what the motion was.
Yeah, like, I agree with Bill. When you read the statute, it says that it is our responsibility to do that.
But it also says we can delegate.
We
and that's
can
what we need.
delegate, and if we can delegate, then we can also tailor it to,
I would think we can.
we can
if
tailor,
have
you would, I mean, I would
responsibility, There
think
should be a
that,
little control.
that Claire would want that. Anybody would, to have at least your board, on board with the decision. What if we disagree with her decision, then what? What do we do?
Then we're gonna have to live with it till the 6 months is up.
There's nothing in the statute that says we gotta live with anything, Mr. Kern. Now, that,
We can't fire those people.
there's nothing in the statute that says we gonna have to live with it, that's not even.
Wait, who can't fire those people?
We can't
Yes,
fire
we
staff.
What does the
Board
statute
cannot
say?
fire
Yes,
staff.
we can.
The statute says we can, Mr. Kern.
And if you look at the MOU, there a paragraph in there that says the same thing.
Yeah. You know,
I
one
didn't
of the
read it that way.
problems with the board here is that we've had people who've been on the board a long time.
Yeah, the
And we
statute-
we do things based on tradition rather than what is statute.
Well, I'm not,
And I
that's just
think
gonna
what-
look at the actual
Right,
statute,
right,
but it
Yeah.
does say that the board has the ability to hire and fire, but it can be delegated to the director,
It
which
can
in
be,
the past.
it's our
Well,
has-
on that February the 6th, it was delegated.
Yes, but
5
the
to
official
0.
motion was.
Yeah, Personally, I think, Claire, you would do a good job, and I have all the confidence in the world in you. And I also have all the confidence in this board's ability to work with you and to agree with your decision. However, I also know from business that it's always a good idea to make sure you have a safety measure in place, just in case an issue comes up where what if 3 of the board members don't like the candidate that you have chosen? And unlike Mr. Kerr, it ain't like we just gotta live with it. I mean, that's.
What other redress do you have if they've already been hired?
You
They haven't
no
been
redress.
rehired until we say they've been
That is
hired.
not the motion we voted on.
It's not,
It's not.
it's not, that's not it.
The
And
motion,
Do you wanna see it?
No,
Claire, I have the video pulled up if you.
we have the video.
I just don't know
Please.
what time it's at.
It's at, I wanna say it's at 55, and then I think it, again, at,
Is there a
I don't remember
problem
what I
with
said.
having the board oversight?
I wanna say it was at 55
well,
today.
that's what I've asked, but I guess they don't wanna have that.
Yeah, don't put it that way, that's
Madam
not what it
Director.
was voted on.
I
You
still,
gave full confidence to Claire, and so we're leaving it with Claire.
with, what is the problem, Claire, that you have with the board having oversight on personnel issues?
This is
What
a
is your
board,
problem?
this is a board decision.
Where is this coming from?
It's a board decision.
Okay,
And I think where it's coming from is the fact that the motion was corrected, but it wasn't corrected adequately to reflect the meeting. And I think that's where the
and whose
question
motion was it?
It was my
is.
motion.
It was
Why don't we let
Bill's
Bill
motion.
tell us what he meant in his motion?
We are, we're
That's
gonna
it.
see.
Watch it.
Well, let me just suggest one other thing. This is where you would need a parliamentarian, because in this instance, this board has complete authority to revisit and make a new motion. If there's any question, there's no reason at all just to accept what might be up there because, oh, that's what
Well,
was
we wanna
said.
show you, and we're going to make a new motion. You
Well-
can make
I
it, she
already
already did, so you can vote
Do you
whichever
want to
way.
amend your motion in any way?
We've
I-
already
I-
done, that motion is
It's
done and
done.
gone. We could do another motion,
Parliamentary.
but
5340, and then it's 5537. That's about when the two motions were made.
Well, as far as my vote goes, I will go with the original vote.
And the original vote says her.
The original vote
Wait,
that we
we
I-
voted
Six
on.
Before we
months
listen
review
to it, I
and
have
1
another
year.
recollection too, because at one point we were bifurcating the assistant director and staff.
We were.
That-
And that was another discussion that was involved. So it could very well
On
be
February the 6th.
interpreted that the motion was just for the staff instead of the assistant director. That could be an interpretation.
The assistant director is part of the staff.
I understand. But it was a discussion.
I think you're right, this is where we do need a parliamentary. To come in with issues like this.
Well, I just wonder why we're looking at this. We've identified the issue, make a motion.
okay, so you don't wanna
Well,
look at
she
this?
did make,
So do you wanna look at this or not?
No, I
Okay.
wanna open this up for another discussion on the motion that you're gonna make.
I already
So-
did make a motion. I said that my motion is that Claire will have sole power to, hire staff.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, it's a motion, and seconded, now it's open for discussion, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I remember distinctly having a differentiation between staff and,
don't shut it down yet, cause we
and-
might have to revisit it.
The audio wasn't working.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to get it.
Go ahead.
can I go ahead? Okay. distinction between the staff and the assistant director. And my concern is with the assistant director hire. My concern is not with the staff. So I wanted to make that distinction, and apparently it got lost in the discussion. So if you're making a motion that Claire have the complete authority, and of course, another thought that I had was, at the time, we had a, quote, subcommittee of 2 people and Claire. I didn't think that that was adequate for the board's decision. There's 5 people here, we have 5 minds, and we should all have input on it, on any hiring. Well, if we're going to give the responsibility to Claire, I think we should do it in total. And that's why I made the motion the way I did. It was for all staff. But as far as the director, the assistant election director is concerned, in order to not have any conflicts, I thought it advisable that after she makes her selection, I don't want to see all of them, I just want to see the one that she selected. I'd like to be able to review with her the reasons why and what she thought and how she made the decision. And then that's just the oversight that I think the board should have on the assistant. Because that assistant is going to move up to election director at some point, in all probability. So that's why I make the distinction. As far as the staff is concerned, she can hire and fire who she wants, and that's up to her. So with that modification, where we have a review procedure just specific for the election assistant, I'll vote in favor of the motion.
I don't want to modify my motion.
You don't want
My
to-
motion is that Claire hires all staff, including the assistant director. And that's my motion.
Well, then I make a motion that we amend your motion as I just set forth.
Okay,
I'll second.
we need to vote on my motion first, and then you can make another motion. But you can't go and amend my motion. My
Why-
motion
why not?
is,
If they
The
all
motion
agree,
needs
like,
amending, that's,
this is my motion, you can vote it down if you want, but I can make my own motion, which has been seconded. If Mr. Kern still wants to second my motion, but my motion is Claire.
now, has this been discussed among you 3 already?
No?
no, we're doing it now.
So,
I mean, this is what I thought
so
we
we're
discussed
hearing this
before.
new for the first time?
No,
You
I thought
decided this brilliance all on your own at this moment?
we talked about this in February, and the understanding in the minutes was different from what I thought.
Well, you
So
got it
then I
wrong,
went and
Betsy.
looked at it.
You just got it wrong.
But y'all refused to watch the video where it was right.
We got the people who in the video right
Okay,
here.
so we're ready to vote on Betsy's motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
And the motion is specifically?
Okay.
That Claire hire all staff, including the assistant director.
Without any supervision or oversight of the board.
We can ask her for updates, but
Yeah.
Are you saying that you want Claire to have that exclusive without any oversight from the board?
Correct.
Okay, well, that's not statute. So why would we be voting on something that's not statute?
what is that?
We can delegate, all right, so 16333 gives us the power to hire, where is it? It's down here towards the bottom.
I don't know why we're even discussing this anyway.
Well, let's discuss it.
Yeah, but what's the point?
To appoint and remove the board's clerk, assistants clerks, and other employees, and to appoint and remove precinct transfer assistants as appropriate. Now, where is it? Where is it?
Well, you know what, why don't we get the people from the state to help us to understand what the statute is, because apparently
Well,
we
that's where it
don't.
might end up.
Yeah.
I think we're all on the same page what the statute says as far as the
Yes.
hiring and firing. But there is the statute that also allows the delegation.
Right.
So it's 2 statutes that we're looking at. And then what brought it up, I think, is simply the fact that the motion that was in the minutes is not reflecting the motion that was
Right, that's
on the
what brought it
recording.
up.
And that's what brought it back up to life.
Did you mean for your motion to be as it was when we voted on
I
it?
ain't making the motion, she is.
No, the motion that you made in February.
Yeah, but what's your question about that?
Yeah. Did you mean for the motion to include oversight from the board after Claire brings us the person that she's interviewed, and she's done the legwork, and this is who we like? Did you mean for that to be the exclusive, the final word to be on, or did you mean for it to include the board to have oversight to agree or disagree?
I just wanted to have the chance of looking at her decision before she hires.
That sound like a good board member?
That's all.
Yeah.
I
That
Just a
sound like what
minute
the staff
ago,
wants.
I thought he said something different. Didn't you say that you didn't care who she hires, as long as she comes to us and let us know and give us the opportunity to ask her questions about her hire?
Yeah,
that not right?
we're kind of splitting hairs here.
I'm not splitting hairs, that's what I
Over
heard.
with, in a situation where the statute says one thing, then
Well,
why can't we?
the word oversight is just a review of the process.
That's all it is.
That- You know, I'm not saying I'm going to nitpick her decision. I
Exactly.
just like to
Well,
talk
that's
to
what
her.
I mean, you said what you said. I'm not saying you're gonna nitpick, but that is what you said.
Mhm.
I mean, it's on record, right? It's videotaped, we're rolling again.
Have you
So-
three talked about this already?
Why do you keep asking that? Why? That's what I wanna know, why?
Well, because.
She just told you how it came about, the meeting, the thing, cause I haven't reviewed
Well, I think
recording.
beyond that point, I'd like to
Yeah.
address,
So why is he
I'd like
asking?
to address her
You-
motion.
Every time you throw him off of it, he comes right back to it. I have not reviewed the thing. I wanna review it
No,
now,
I
but you guys
asked-
don't want
I
to.
didn't ask whether you had reviewed it or not, that was not my question. My question was, have you three, being you, Kurt, and Ms. McCormick, discussed this issue prior to coming to this meeting, yes or no?
Did you not tell us how you came to it? The motion doesn't match the meeting minutes? But we didn't ask then, we just accepted, cause you said you looked at it 3 times, is what you said,
Because
right?
I emailed the board the minutes, and then prior to beginning the meeting, Mr. McNutt came to me, said that was not the motion that he made, gave me the information, told me he reviewed the tapes, the recording, and said that he made the motion 3 times, so afterwards I had reviewed it as well. I know Betsy said
That's how we
she
got. the
looked at it because she did not
information.
remember the motion being that way, so she reviewed it too. And so the question that I had was, do we need to correct the minutes to reflect the actual motion?
Cause right now, it's the revised version of what he told you on that next meeting, right?
Correct.
Well, it sounds to me what Mr. McNutt here is proposing in his motion, however, inaccurate it may or may not be, is a good idea, and it goes to
Why are
foster.
you guys opposed to
It-
watching it then?
It's,
To see
it goes
exactly
to
what it
foster, excuse me, okay? It goes to foster a good working relationship with the board, all of its members, and the director. And, I mean, it stands to reason, that's just common sense.
Well, that's your interpretation. I agree, but they have different interpretations, so let's get on with her motion.
Call the question.
Okay, so do you want Claire to repeat my motion, or do you want me to repeat it, or?
Claire, what's the one?
Betsy moved for Ms. Jones to hire staff, all staff including the assistant director.
And I seconded that.
What, before, but then, oh, you didn't add in, because remember I said,
The original motion,
That's my sole
okay,
motion,
alright,
that's
she's
my
not
sole
changing it.
motion.
Never mind, okay.
And I did find the statute about the delegation, it's 16335.
alright, so we have a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any Any opposed?
No.
No. I mean, yes, I oppose. Somebody, you know
I'm
what?
glad you corrected
See
that.
how, see how?
You said it. You
Yeah.
said it.
But, you know, we know what's going on here,
No,
okay?
you don't.
We're not
No,
idiots
okay,
over here
yeah,
on
just
this
a
side.
minute. Just a
Well,
minute.
I mean, listen, you need to calm it down.
No,
He came and said that he saw something 3 times, we all looked at it, and we went ahead and I think she says, well, if you said it 3 times, if you reviewed it 3 times, then it's fine.
Where's the
What we should have
accountability in
done,
this?
what we should have done is just went to the, but it was
We approved the minutes at an absentee meeting
Right.
after the regular.
right, so we couldn't go and do any of that. This is the first official meeting since.
okay, I would like to make a motion.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion that before the election director hires the assistant election director, the person that she's decided upon should be submitted to the board in full for oversight. Is there a second?
I do, I second.
Any discussion?
Well, it's a little unclear of what you mean by the person will be submitted and what you mean by oversight. It's,
Okay, let me, I can
Oversight.
clarify those two things.
Oversight.
The person is her selection for the position of assistant election director.
so is this before HR makes an offer to somebody? Is it after HR makes an offer to somebody?
Before the final hire, whatever that entails.
I mean, why is this so difficult to comprehend?
Wait, just, all right.
I don't get it.
Maybe you can't
And the other question?
What happens?
Oversight?
Yeah, what happened, yeah,
Yeah.
what do you mean by
Oversight is just that we acknowledge her decision, that's all. We still have, we can, if somebody objects, have a discussion and a vote. You know, I'm not saying that she can't hire someone because we don't like whatever we don't like. Certainly, it's going to be valid, we're all adults. But I'd like to have the opportunity, since I have the responsibility as a board member, I'd like the opportunity to review it before you say you're hired. Because if I vehemently oppose it, I might have to take it up to the state and challenge her hire. I don't want to do that.
Listen, there's enough with this.
Just a second. Any other discussions on it?
If you say oversight, then that means you have some discretion, I think, as far as,
Is that a bad thing, Mr. Colonel?
let me finish. The oversight implies that you would have some authority to deny that, and that was not the motion that I said.
Would you accept, well, this is a motion that I'm making. And if you're objecting to the word oversight, would you accept the word review? Review her selection.
Can I, while he's pondering that, so what was the whole spiel to say that she was professional and da 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 and could handle it all? And then somehow it got to where we are now. That's what you said about
I
Claire, that she
I just
can
made a
hire.
motion after hers. So that's what we're addressing right now.
Call the question.
Do you,
I did Mr.
will you
Bell say.
accept the review instead of oversight?
I think we just need to just vote on this on the table.
Anyone more comments? Do you have my motion again?
Before the election director hires the assistant, submit the information to the board to, I have oversee decision and then in parentheses, review
Just put in
selection, so,
review.
okay.
Leave out oversight.
All right, so we have a motion and a second, all those in favor,
Aye.
all those opposed?
Aye. No.
No, well, I, no, whatever. Means the same.
Any other discussions?
Yeah, I think that you're avoiding your authority as a board. That's my observation.
No, we have some
Yes.
authority.
That's
We
my
become-
observation, that's all you.
Well, let me
I'm
just
saying what
say,
I'm
Why don't we let the state handle
we
this?
had, let them,
Why
because
don't we let the
we made
state
the
handle
decision,
this?
and you didn't like it, so you
Yeah,
redid it.
why don't we let the state handle this and we'll get out of the, governing business
Let
as a
someone
board
else do
anyway.
it. Let someone else do it.
Yeah, let the state handle this. Come on, let's go.
No, we ain't going home.
Yeah, well, I am.
What else do we have?
I'm gonna get
Alright,
some payment.
The only thing we had to do really is,
What else you got?
we have to close the, early voting sites at 7:30.
Yeah.
So my recommendation was to recess our meeting until 7:30
Sounds good.
and then reconvene at 7:30 at the Board of Elections office, and that way we can close those machines at a public.
Sounds good. I'm gonna learn how to get some
I so
payments.
moved.
Okay. Bill, take over from
Alright.
me.
A motion and a
Alright,
second,
no, no.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Take it easy.
Any opposed? So we will